Hey everyone, before we get started with the podcast today, I wanted to tell you about a little addiction that I have, which is putting on mastermind events for marketers all over the world. In 2022, we did it in Victoria, British Columbia, down at the marina on the coast, where we brought together about 50 amazing marketers and entrepreneurs together for 2 days of masterminding and elite experiences and all sorts of fun stuff. We went to Las Vegas last year and had an absolutely epic event. And this year, September 18th and 19th, we're returning to our roots and inviting DTC listeners from around the world to join us in Victoria, British Columbia for 2 days of an absolutely incredible experience. We're bringing together some speakers from the past and a lot of new ones, including Andrew Wilkinson, international business icon from Tiny. We've got Nick Shackelford to tell us all about his Breeze story, as well as Kevin Gould from Glamnetic about his $50 million year and what's come after that, as well as Brock Mamoser from Frost Buddy. Really excited about his talk on TikTok Shops and how he's grown to a $30 million brand. This event is all about helping brand owners in our audiences get from where they are today to where they want to go, whether that's from 7 figures to 8 figures to 9 or beyond. We're going to have the people at this event. We're going to have the content at this event. And we're going to have the experiences at this event that lock in these concepts for you. Best case in point is one of our speakers, Drew Archeolo, who's coming from Victory Gear, who came to our event in 2022, took a notebook full of notes on all of the talks and all the connections that he made, went out and turned Victory Gear from a middling, unprofitable 7-figure brand to a profitable $20 million powerhouse just 2 years later. Obviously, there were a lot of reasons for that, but he definitely credits what he learned at C-Suite Mastermind as a big part of this. So if you want to replicate that experience, you can go to events.directtoconsumer.co. We only have 50 seats available. It's about halfway filled already just from being 2 weeks of being launched. So don't wait. This is a major FOMO event. You don't want to miss out on it. We're going to do a few previews in the coming weeks of some of the speakers. We're not going to give away too much because we want you to come to Victoria and have this amazing experience with us. I hope you can make it, and on with the show.
A good first step is going to those maybe more like blog style page or your about page and thinking about how you can turn that into something that's a bit more shoppable. You can basically turn your about us page on a Shopify store into like a founder style landing page. There's no reason that those pages have to be boring and not sales focused. Like, they're on the website to buy something, so don't be shy about telling them that they can buy something. It's almost like the brand writing it about themselves, and everyone knows that they're writing it about themselves. So if you just take it into the first person and you're like, yo, I made this brand because of X, Y, and Z, that is so much more powerful and so much more emotionally impactful to someone on the site.
Wondering what 100 influencers talking about your brand could do to your bottom line? Meet Sorrel, the influencer platform that brands are using to get a 5 to 7x median ROAS on their influencer spend. As ad costs rise, it's time to build robust marketing moats with authentic creator partnerships. Sorrel automates and simplifies the entire process from finding influencers to contacting them, shipping products, and turning them into affiliates. Sorrel's G2 rating is 4.8, and the brands are loving their customer happiness team that will help you set things up from scratch even if you have no experience with influencers. Ready for a simpler, more effective approach to influencer marketing? DTC Podcast listeners enjoy a special offer. Double the trial length for free at no annual commitment. Start today at getsorrel.com/champions/DTC-newsletter. It's all killer, no filler. I'm Eric. I'm back with Avery, and Jocelyn returns to the podcast from our Meta ad buying team. Welcome. Today, we are talking about something that's very near and dear to the podcast. It's funny, it was some of the things that we talked about on some of our very first podcasts. It was our very first challenge that we put out there, which was the Build a Landing Page challenge. It was interesting in the prep for this, Aves, you were just saying when you're doing audits, you're still seeing most brands are just running straight to a PDP and not experiencing the benefits of that post-click optimization.
Yeah, I see a lot of brands who either, they don't have the capabilities, so they're only running their Shopify PDP, or they've created like 2 landing pages and 1 variation of that landing page. And they're just, I guess, praying to Dolly Parton that works and it's the most optimized version of the page without ever testing it against other pages, which doesn't make a lot of sense because it's not what we do with ads. Why would you do that with pages?
So just give the high level thesis on why because Pilothouse uses pages pretty much across every client. That's sort of like it's usually, as you're saying, like an instant win we can bring to the table. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. So I think landing pages, it's just a solid move. Whatever your vertical is, whatever your AOV is, it just makes sense to do. It's kind of like the missing piece, especially for our socials, like our Meta or TikTok based clients. If you think about it, a lot of the traffic we're bringing in is cold traffic. They may have never even heard of the brand in their life. So running someone from like they're just scrolling on Meta, they see an ad for something they think is remotely interesting, and you're immediately brought to the PDP, and it's kind of like make the decision now whether or not you want to buy this thing, is kind of when you lay it out like that, an insane thing to be doing and kind of a monumental waste of your money. The role that a landing page plays is the middle ground. So I always say the ad is like a sign on a closed door that says, there's something really, really cool in here. You should come in, you should check it out. It's really, really cool. The landing page is like the actual salesperson when you walk into the room, and they give you all the details. I've never really done that job of in-person sales, but they give you all the classic sales tricks that I'm sure other people are very good at describing, not myself, but they give you a way to overcome any objections that you have, which is what a landing page should do. And then the PDP is kind of the less benefit, emotional focused part of the equation where it's like, okay, here's the shipping information. Here are the specs on the product. If it's like a consumable, here are the ingredients. It's like the technical side. But yeah, I feel like when you break it down like that for someone who's not running landing pages, they like kind of deflate a little bit and they feel a little bit bad when you're like, you are taking someone who doesn't know your brand, you're sending them to a PDP and you're saying, buy this now with no other context. It's not a good thing to be doing. So that's kind of the overarching like why you should be using landing pages and not just running straight to a PDP.
And then practically when it comes to using them, how, like you were mentioning, they only use one or two potentially. How do we determine how many landing pages to create?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can start with on the like kind of formulation zero side, and then I can pass to Jocelyn on more of a like benchmark traffic side. But for us, it depends entirely on what I'm testing. So sometimes I will have a page style that works incredibly well after doing a lot of work on it. So I'll start testing really small details like a headline or maybe the picture that's used in the hero or what is the CTA. And typically for most accounts, probably anywhere from 2 to 4. And they always have like a very strong variation of what is the thing that I'm actually testing here. So it's not just like a completely different whole page. It's like one minute thing that I'm changing to get the most optimized version of. But if we're talking, I'm now realizing that question might have been further back than I was answering it, just how many on an account. And I would say it depends entirely on the scale, but also your product range.
I was kind of thinking by angle too, like how are like there's this dream of with AI marketing and just marketing in general of really meeting a customer where they're at. So then maybe through to you, Jocelyn, on the ad side, how do you think about when you need a landing page for either an angle or for a product that needs to be different from the PDP or from a really general landing page?
Yeah, it can definitely vary by brand and really depends on what the product mix is and like what we are marketing. So in some cases, we work with brands where we're really honed in on one product. And in that case, we might be a bit broader with testing different angles on pages. But in other cases where brands have a broader product selection, we'll typically choose the top product and create multiple pre-sales for that product. There's also a lot of opportunity to make custom collections pages. That's something that Aves has definitely mastered on her end of things. And one of the benefits with that is helping to boost AOV and really driving users to multiple products that are available. And then there's also opportunity to do bundling. So we've done a lot of testing with bundles and having like a good, better, and best block to really push different bundle sizes and increase AOV on the post-click side. And that can all be done in the back end without really editing what we're doing on the ad side through the Warp Drive links that we use.
Yeah, Warp Drive is sort of the secret tool behind a lot of Pilothouse's success. I think they've been kind of using a variation of it, a Mark 1 version of it for many, many years. And now we're rolling out more and more iterations on it. Aves, can you Aves or Jocelyn, I'm not sure who's best to describe it. Just describe what Warp Drive is and what it allows Pilothouse to do.
Warp Drive is our conversion rate optimization tool that we use in-house. So it's a proprietary tool that all of our clients have access to through our meta media buying services. And essentially it allows us to create different funnels with different purposes. So for example, if we are selling t-shirts, we're going to have a prospecting funnel and a retargeting funnel. So we set those both up, use unique links in our ads, and then once we publish ads and start to see social proof stacking up, nothing changes in the ad side. We make all of the optimizations in the back end, so we can set up different weighted round robins for split testing pre-sales versus PDPs versus home pages and collections pages. So yeah, it's a really powerful tool.
That's wild. I remember 4 years ago when we were talking about using the proto version of it, that was like, I'm surprised more people aren't doing it. You know what I mean? The fact that just because there's so much value in not disrupting your ad campaigns to having to swap links out and things like that. So to be able to make all these changes while Meta is, none the wiser, I'm sure they are, but they're not having to reset the learnings on the campaigns seems like a game breaking difference.
Yeah, it's like a huge strategic advantage that I know sometimes because I've worked at Pilothouse for a while now. I really take it for granted, but I know like when new clients come in, it's such a like aha value moment for them. And it's like, oh no, we don't have to reset learnings. We don't have to disrupt this ad that's doing well. We can take this ad that we worked really hard to get to the place where it's doing well and then make it do better, make more money from that ad that's already doing well without messing things up. So yeah, it's like definitely, like you're saying, like you're kind of just in awe of it sometimes when you realize how rudimentary it is to live without Warp Drive.
Do they get identified? I guess it gets identified both ways. When a campaign comes in, Aves, you're on the creative side coming up with landing pages, and then Jocelyn on the ad side. When you see an angle pop or you see something specific, you're saying, okay, let's build a landing page around this. Can you walk me through the process of what that looks like, of like identifying what metrics you're looking for to identify when you're going to create a landing page, and then what process we go through?
Yeah, when we find a winning angle in an ad account, it's a really good opportunity to really mirror that user experience on the post-click side. So, for example, if the winning angle is quality, then we can take either the top copy hook or the top headline if we've done headline testing, or any assets from the creative itself, and bring those to the post-click side. And then when we do start page testing, we are looking primarily at earnings per click and conversion rate as our two main metrics, and really trying to have a minimum number of visitors through those pages to determine the success of a landing page. And from there, we'll work on iterations of the winning page. So that could include testing other headlines, adding a sticky footer or banner, maybe a countdown timer if there's an offer on the page as well. Just creating different iterations off of that winning angle to really leverage what we can do on the post-click side and drive a higher conversion rate for the brand.
Yeah, it gives you that ability to be more performative too, right? To add in elements that a brand wouldn't maybe want on their homepage all the time, but in this environment of like, you paid to bring this person here, so let's do everything we can to convert them.
Yeah, I was going to say like a huge point that Jocelyn made there is like taking the angle from the ad. They clicked on the ad for a reason. The thing that's in the ad resonated with them. So if I have like an ad that really speaks to like a pair of sunglasses being stylish, and then I send them to a page that's all about the functionality of those sunglasses, that is so disjointed and disconnected from what that person was actually interested in to begin with, that it's almost like throwing money away. Totally. By just sending them to something that's just not related to what they were interested in at all. And yeah, we love to like experiment and play with the relationship between how you represent an angle in ad creative versus on a page. Because obviously in ad creative, the goal is just to get them to the page. So it's almost like a quick, scrappy kind of like look at me version of the angle. And you just really dive into it on the page because you have more space to do so. And also you already know that that person is interested in that kind of line of thinking and that reason for buying.
So walk me through, like, because yeah, you want people to be like resonate with the pain or resonate with the, and then have it more explained on the landing page. So walk me through an angle, what it would look like in an ad versus how it would be displayed on a landing page.
Totally, yeah. That also really nails it. It's like the ad is problem agitation and the landing page is problem solution, and presenting that solution. But I was thinking of this I was honestly eating avocado toast this morning and I put on some of my like fresh salt. So I was like,
classic really millennial moves here.
I'm actually not a millennial.
Oh, that's right. You're even younger. Yeah.
Gen Z.
You're Gen Z.
Gen Z, affording the millennial avocado toast dream, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was sprinkling my, like, you crush it yourself salt on top of it. And I was thinking about how much my meal is improved by salt. So I was thinking about, like, an example of just, like, using a very good, high-quality, like, borderline magic salt. So the pre-click ad example would be, like, your home cooking sucks. Because that is something that people are going to be like, yes. I resonate with that. I feel like probably a lot of people do. That's another thing. You want to cast a wide net, but a lot of people feel that. We know that, like, you can scroll on TikTok or whatever, and people are always talking about, like, getting a lot of Uber Eats. Like, that's something people can relate to. So the, like, ad creative side, the punchy version is, like, your home cooking sucks. And then you bring that person to a landing page that might be a little bit more, like, founders focused and kind of this idea of, like, are you getting takeout every night? Are you spending a lot of money on it? You're really not alone in that. Like, so many people go through that. That's why we formulated this special salt to make your food at home taste better. You don't have to learn anything in the kitchen. You just use the salt. And all of a sudden, someone goes from maybe not even scrolling past the hero section of a page to being like, this is telling my story. This is representing my struggle with the kitchen and being able to cook, and it's going to save me money. If I buy this salt, even if it's hugely expensive, I'll get takeout less. So it's just about, like, expanding and telling the story in more of a, like, full through line way.
I think that's cool. I think you just can't use too much salt most of the time, especially if you've got a good salt. So, like, just got to get just right in there with the Salt
shout
Bay.
Out to Salt Bay.
To Salt Bay on that.
Shout out to Salt Bay. I hope you're listening, Salt Bay.
I hope Salt Bay's listening. What else on the ad side of things, in terms of, like, how we structure these campaigns, or how else are you thinking about landing pages from the ad side, Jocelyn?
Really making sure that we're creating a cohesive experience. So another example of how we use funnels would be for promos. So if there's a limited time 25% off running for the 4th of July, we'll set up a unique funnel for that offer so that users who are seeing that promo in the ads are also then seeing that reinforced on the post-click side, either with a long-form pre-sell, an iteration on a top page that has been working in an account, or creating maybe a flyer with a timer to really enforce the urgency of the offer. So yeah, that's another use case for funnels and how we kind of implement them on the Warp Drive side of things. And then we also do see a boost in performance when we put promo pages in our Evergreen funnels. So if you had a funnel running right now for t-shirts and you're running a 4th of July sale, we would go into Warp Drive and put our top 4th of July page in that funnel so that users are being met with an offer that could push them over the edge. We do see success with that primarily in retargeting, but it is something that can also work in prospecting, just depending on what is running in the pre-click side of things and the audience and product and brand overall.
That's such a good shout, and very timely, because I was just working in the background with some Q4 prep related stuff that we'll be rolling out, which is, like, wild because it's July. But Evergreen performance was something that we were focusing on a lot, to kind of, like, communicate the value and finding good Evergreen ads before. And that is such a big player when it comes to, like, Q4 and Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I was, like, having these Evergreen ads that are working and then putting a Black Friday flyer page in there. Huge increase in performance. I think that's the first time I've mentioned Q4 on the podcast.
Oh my God.
Maybe
I gotta
note
take
it down July.
I'll take a drink every time. From now on, every time we mention it. Like, it's funny, we jumped right in. This is what we do on the All Killer No Filler podcast. We speak to the operators in the audience, so there's probably some beginners sometimes that are left behind. I've been told it's a bit inside baseball. But for those, you mentioned that there are all these brands that we come across that aren't doing any landing pages. Obviously, Pilothouse has this wizardrous warp drive tool and a team built for people that can make these pages. But for people out there that just want to get their feet wet with landing pages, what do you guys recommend? I guess it's hard because we have our system, but what do you recommend for people to go out there for their thought process for like what to create the landing pages about, and then even just like technically how to implement them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I work with some just in my past, I've worked with smaller operations. And a lot of the times what I recommend is simply doing what we were talking about. But obviously, if you're a bit smaller, you're probably not going to be working with a tool like Instapage to build these pages. So building them into your website, but making them more shoppable. So I bet if you are someone who's listening and you felt like that kind of went over your head and you can't do it, and you have a smaller brand, I bet you have like an about page on your website that is not CRO optimized. So kind of a good first step is going to those maybe more like blog style page or your about page, and thinking about how you can turn that into something that's a bit more shoppable. Like you can basically turn your about us page on a Shopify store into like a founder style landing page. There's no reason that those pages have to be boring and not sales focused. Like they're on the website to buy something. So don't be shy about telling them that they can buy something and weaving that into like every kind of nook and cranny. Even if you've got a page that focuses on like your sustainability practices, you can still make that a shoppable page. And I bet if you are a brand that's very sustainable, you have ads running that talk about that. You already have the data. You just have to put it into the page and start running traffic to it.
And have a conversion focused mindset instead of just, the Shopify out of the box solution. You got to make it look a little bit cooler. And the founder story is I think that's such a great shout for anyone out there. Like take a look at your about us page and turn that into a founder story sales page. I think founder story is one of the consistent sort of themes that works well on landing pages as well, right?
Yeah, and those like about us pages are always such wasted space. Like it's always like the brand writing it about themselves, and everyone knows that they're writing it about themselves. So you just take it into the first person and you're like, yo, I made this brand because of X, Y, and Z. That is so much more powerful and so much more like emotionally impactful to someone on the site.
Very cool. Any other consistent themes that we see working well, or other sort of I'm just curious about headlines too. Maybe we can talk about headlines after this. But any other themes along that idea of the founder story that might also work well, or is it all just angle dependent after that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say it's all quite angle dependent. If you're a brand that focuses on a single SKU, flyer pages that really outline the and I feel like I make this distinction a lot, not the USPs, but the actual benefits to someone's life. Those usually work quite well. So really like short, digestible pages, those tend to work very well. People don't have very long attention spans these days. Substituting, this is a good little insider trick, substituting images for videos. That's also been working very well. Nobody really wants to read. So if you partner some lengthy text with like a fun animated video that visualizes that information for someone, that's also been working really well. It's not like a page type, more so like an element.
Yeah.
But yeah, also it does depend so greatly on your vertical, but advertorial style pages tend to work really well too, especially with slightly older audiences. So pages that give a lot of information and feel like they're written as like an article about the product.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of an actual ad. Yeah.
And are those sort of more from a objective perspective, or are they sort of storytelling as well? Are they very much like a storytelling approach?
Mm-hmm. Very much storytelling. They're my favorite pages. I used to do a lot of like writing in my former lives, and I love writing advertorial pages. It's not really technically in my job scope now, but I love to do it because it's all about like really fine tuning that persona and then writing the page in a style that really matches them. So it gets really fun, but it's all about really like pulling on the emotional elements of the sales process. So really making someone feel a certain kind of way about a product.
Crying is buying, as my friend Eric always said. Any other sort of like actual on the page techniques? You mentioned sticky footers. Those are something we talk about a lot. What else on the page are elements that we find are working these days?
I've been getting really meta on pages, like calling people out and like referring to the user a lot. Really fun CTAs work really well too, or really fun little elements around the CTA, like it's a button, you know, you want to click it, just click it, like adding that copy and really having fun with people, I think has been working really well lately. And like speaking to them on their level, having fun on their level, but making it an enjoyable process instead of like black and white, very dry marketing. Yeah, having some fun and like hopefully getting a little bit of a laugh. Same with like headlines on pages. I've been doing a lot of like addressing people directly, like, hey, you, yeah, you, that kind of copy, which is like weird to read and write, but has been working quite well.
Very cool. Anything from your side, Jocelyn?
Yeah, with the promo pages and just getting ready for Black Friday, one thing to definitely try is countdown timers. You can also create a GIF that's a countdown timer, so it just resets every time the page loads to 15 minutes or 60 minutes to really ramp up that urgency, as opposed to having it counting down for a certain number of days. And reviews, having social proof on landing pages typically can work really well to gain trust before users end up clicking through to the PDP and revealing the pricing for products depending on what your AOV is. Really having that social proof to reinforce your brand and durability or quality of the product is definitely a big one. And any shipping info, like if you have free 2-day shipping, including that in the banner or on a sticky footer can also work really well on the post-click side of things.
We can also, in Warp Drive, Jocelyn, your like countdown timer reminded me, we can do like a lot of really cool things with some custom code, but we can do like specific to the date headline. So I have sometimes, in some cases, it works better to swap out the countdown timer, and we'll have a page set where we've got like headlines for the full week leading up to the sale, and it'll be like, hey, our sale just started, you have a week to shop, and kind of this increased urgency to like the headline the day before the sale ends is like, hey, you need to buy, homie, the sale ends tomorrow. And that kind of like added interactivity works really well. And that's something that we do through Warp Drive. We can also call out the time that the user's visiting, which is really cool, and that usually increases performance. I really like to do like headlines that call out like between midnight and 3 a.m. like, hey, this is goblin time. This is a crazy time for you to be shopping. So just make the purchase. That kind of like personalization also works really well.
Calling out people on their goblin time is just diabolical.
Yeah, we've all been there. Like we've all made that e-commerce purchase after midnight. That it's like when it arrives, like, okay.
Did you see what was on? I think it was. I forget what it was. It was one of those zany brands, the Cards Against Humanity or whatever. They're having that crazy auction sale today where you can buy like a halberd, you can buy like a medieval weapon of war. That would definitely be a goblin time purchase, I think.
Yeah. They dropped like one item at like 99%.
Super smart.
It's crazy.
So without maybe mentioning the brand, like what's an example that springs to mind as a brand who was doing okay and then landing pages were implemented and they just started crushing? Like what type of brand was it? And walk me through the story maybe from the inception and the ad buying side. Can you do that?
I can. Yeah, I think within like the jewelry vertical, I've seen success with it because jewelry is very oversaturated as a market. So differentiating yourself is really hard to do from ad to PDP. So we have some ads that were working really well. And this sort of ties into the upsell podcast that we did, Eric. It kind of ties into that. So we started creating landing pages and they were going gangbusters and worked really well. When we started to explain like the kind of durability side of the product and also leaning into some of our top angles on pages with a ton of copy because we just knew it was such a hyper competitive market. So really leaning into our kind of differentiating qualities and also successful angles, which was a lot of our kind of bundling related stuff. And then as we talked about on the last podcast or a few podcasts ago that you guys can check out, we added an upsell functionality to that page. So not only did we just increase revenue from some of our top campaigns in a very like easy way, we also then ended up being able to increase our earnings per click on the landing pages that were already doing well by adding the upsell and kind of boosting AOV too. So it's like the ultimate success story. But I think we typically see the biggest, like I feel like I've seen it so many times. That's just a recent one. I've seen it work so many times. We see the biggest increase in performance on like high AOV technical products that we're formerly just running to a PDP. That's like the lowest hanging fruit it's on a bush. That's how low the fruit is. Like it's on the ground. To take something that's like over $200 and then you add some context to it, those are the ones that always like immediately just start working head and shoulders above the PDP. But yeah, I'd be curious, Jocelyn, if you've seen anything. Like we've seen a lot of the same things work, but if you've seen anything recently that has just kind of changed the account.
Yeah, more so with home goods and having pre-sales end up doubling the conversion rate compared to a PDP. So then taking that winning pre-sale and iterating on it with different SKUs and also different headlines to really just leverage the performance on the pre-sale, on the account overall, but by using pre-sales. And then one other thing that we didn't touch on was the second step in Warp Drive. So when a user clicks on an ad and then they land on the pre-sale, we also have the ability to customize where they go after they are on the pre-sale. So on that next button click, we can customize if we want to send a user to a preloaded checkout, a PDP, a collections page, maybe an additional pre-sale page or Instapage page that we've created. So for example, a user lands on a long form pre-sale, gets all of the information on the product, and then we send them to a secondary Insta page that we've created that is either really product focused, it could be a custom PDP, or an offer page where they're prompted with a limited time offer. And then from there, we can send them to the checkout. So there's a lot of additional functionality that we can do with that second step to try to boost conversion rate. So there's the pre-sale optimizations that we make, but then there's the second step optimizations as well that can be really powerful for brands depending on the product and overall goals.
And where they are in the funnel, right?
Yeah,
If they're really deep in the funnel, you want to send them to that preloaded checkout right away. And you can see huge gains from that. Super cool. Well, it leaves me with a question, like if you're not using landing pages and optimizing landing pages, are you even performance marketing?
You're only like doing, I would say just under half of it, like 47% of what you should be doing if you're not thinking about landing pages. Makes me anxious. If you're one of those people, give us a call. I stay awake at night thinking about like how many people we speak to who are just like, I've never thought about that. Okay. Please think about it.
Well, we have you guys to kind of continue to keep us updated on this stuff. So thanks for coming on today. And I think we're doing some other stuff soon too, Aves. We got some other stuff cooking up. I know I'm on a little vacation after this, but when we get back, we're gonna be cooking up some more fun content with the Pilothouse team. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, more fun stuff. I feel like I just come on this podcast and I'm like, if you're not doing this, you're making me nervous every single week. I'm like,
that's what people need. They need that urgency. We need a countdown timer on the bottom of this podcast. Your business will implode unless you start testing some landing pages. So either do it yourself, come chat with us at Pilothouse. Either way. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the D2C newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilothouse's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.